All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at PrizePicks and Game Time. It is Brian Hines back, as always, with Alex Barth, because we have another game to break down, and unfortunately, another Patriots loss. They dropped their Week 4 game 30-13 to the San Francisco 49ers. On Sunday to fall to 1-3 on the season. 3-game losing streak now for the team. And Barth, are you surprised? We're going to be talking about the quarterback. We're going to be talking about the offensive line. But before we do that, just kind of big picture thoughts on the game from yesterday there.
Well, that is kind of my big picture. Like, I know some people came away from that game like shocked or whatever, and I'm not saying you have to like what you saw because you don't. But that game to me was, even with everybody out that was out for the Niners, the Patriots faced a better team than them, got outclassed, and things that we've known since the summer, weaknesses got exposed. The quarterback play, the offensive line, the defensive front. It's not to say, like, it's not to excuse any of it, because it shouldn't be excused. But there was nothing in there that I was like, oh, that's new. Right? That game just kind of felt like how that game should have gone. The Patriots are not on the Niners level, even with the Niners missing a few key players. We know that. And in particular, the Niners were able to exploit some Patriots' weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean, they were the biggest underdog of the week. And I know each week of the NFL season so far, the biggest underdog has won outright, but you could sense this one was going to be the one that probably came to an end because, you're going cross country, you're against a team that is a Super Bowl contender. They were in the Super Bowl last year, and you just kind of expected that's how it would go. If you told us they lost by, 17 points going into the week, we probably would have expected that. So, but yeah, it just brings back into light the quarterback in the offensive line, Jacoby Brissett, under heavy pressure, again, over 50%. Pressure rate for the second straight week. He took, I think, double-digit quarterback hits again, 6 more sacks. Yes. So under heavy pressure still, but he finally did the one thing that he's really been good at the first 3 weeks is he hasn't turned the ball over, and he had a pick 6 there early. Great play by Fred Warner, who's an outstanding linebacker, an outstanding player, but Jacoby kind of staring Tyquan Thornton down, pick 6. He put the ball on the ground 3 other times too, 3 fumbles. One was, I think he only lost 1. He recovered the other 2, but that's what Jacoby Brissett can't do. Now he's keeping his job for now. Drake Maye said this morning that he's still the quarterback. So A, do you agree with that decision? And B, like, just thoughts on Jacoby Brissett again from yesterday?
I agree. I agree with him keeping the job, I guess, basically out by default. Like, I'm still not comfortable putting Drake Maye out there. I don't think putting Drake Maye out there is the right decision. I thought that was Jacoby's worst game of the year. I've kind of defended him at times in terms of people saying he's holding the ball too long or saying like he's making the offensive line worse. And I still think that's true for the earlier games. Wasn't the case yesterday. He was holding the ball under pressure. He missed some open reads. This is a guy that is a veteran in this league. I believe is one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the league. He might be low 20s, high 30s, but he's one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the league, and has a ton of experience. And just watching him yesterday, the pressure is getting to him. Like, he's sped up. His pocket presence isn't there. He's anticipating hits. He's not seeing ghosts in the secondary like we associate seeing ghosts with, just kind of like missing guys in coverage and things like that. He's seeing ghosts in the pass rush. Like, you can tell he's anticipating hits when there's nobody near him. And I think a lot of that's a product of the offensive line. He wasn't doing that at the beginning of the year. And it's not good. But at the same time, I don't want to subject Drake Maye to that.
Yeah. There are even plays. There was one, because it was frustrating because the receivers were open at times, and that's been kind of the case. Not overly consistent. Some guys are struggling to get separation, but when there's a receiver open and the offensive line actually holds up enough and the play is not still getting made, that's the frustrating part with Jacoby. And there were some of those on Sunday. There was one, I think it was a third down. Kayshon Boutte was open 20 yards down the field and he had a pocket, but he couldn't get him the football. So, but do you think, they're not going to May. Do you think Drake could make this better? Like, think he could elevate the offensive line by whether it's being more in the gun and operating, Van Pelt said they will change the offense, right, with the quarterbacks. And we've seen that based off their actions with Drake Maye in there. So they could do some of that to help the offensive line. And even, they're getting blitzed so much that because they have no threat of vertically passing the ball downfield. And that's something else that Drake Maye is really good at. Maybe just the threat of pushing the ball again could make some of these defenses back off. So maybe putting Maye in there could just help the offensive line as a, product of his environment almost.
Yes and no. I mean, is he going to help in spots? Yes. This is where, and I know people don't want to hear this, but this is where you have to take the long term into account. 2 or 3 plays a game, is he going to make a difference? Yeah. What's going to happen on the other 40-something, 50-something plays he's in there? Because some of these, the quarterback has no shot, and we know that, Brian. And I also don't think a quarterback setting protections with what's mostly going to be an inexperienced offensive line, like you're going to create some pressures there, going from David Andrews and Jacoby Brissett to, if David Andrews out, Nick Leverett, who's played like 50 snaps of center in his NFL career, and Drake Maye, you're going to take a drop off there, and teams are going to start blitzing the crap out of you, and you're not going to be able to pick it up. So look, the Patriots pressure rate is just a tick under 50% right now. Even if Drake Maye takes 10% off, which would be massive. I mean, that's not realistic. It's not realistic for him to take that much off. But let's say he takes 10% off. There's still a bottom 4 pass protection unit in the NFL. You can't subject a kid to that. You just can't. Not yet. And I know, he's going to have to get in. He's going to have to learn how to throw against pressure. You draft him 3rd overall. I get it. This is not normal. This is not NFL pressure. This is learning to drive by racing in the Daytona 500. You can't subject a kid to this. And how I know it's wrong is there's a subset of Patriots fans, I think, that are trying to talk themselves into the line's not as bad as we think. The play calling's not as bad as we think. So just put the kid in and it'll be fine. It's all on Jacoby Brissett. Those aren't even the fans that stand out to me. I was seeing people, and I know Twitter's not real life, but I was seeing people yesterday express the sentiment that, yeah, it is a shit show. Put him in anyway because I want to see him. Because I just want the shiny new toy. I want the team to be more watchable, which I get. I understand. But if you put him in there and he gets his head taken off, we're back at square one. This is what these crapbag franchises do. They can't get out of the hole fast enough, and they jeopardize the long-term picture, and they end up right back where they started, if not worse. And this isn't necessarily to defend everything the Patriots have done. Let me be perfectly clear about that. This is not to defend everything the Patriots have done. I think they are doing what's best in the current situation, which is you do not have a base-level offensive line. You cannot subject a raw quarterback prospect to that. The issue is they should have a better offensive line than they do. And we don't need to go down the road of, well, Tyron Smith wasn't going to sign it. I know that. They brought in no real left tackles, and I roll your eyes. I'm a broken record, I know. They brought in no real left tackles this offseason. The only experienced tackle they brought in quit 2 months into the thing. Wasn't interested in it. I'm talking about replacement level players. We've done the list. Josh Jones, Cornelius Lucas, Cam Fleming. These guys, they are 4 weeks in. They are pulling guys off the street. Brian, I've been I've pretty much poo-pooed anybody who comes in here and asks about Donovan Smith or asks about David Bakhtiari or asked about Charles Leno.
It might be a necessity now.
Any of these guys? Yeah, I'm still out on Bakhtiari because I just don't think he can play. I like physically, I don't think he can anymore.
I think his knee is kind of cooked. And again, if anyone would know, you think it would be Elliott Wolf, who has all these Green Bay connections and all that.
985sportshub.com, I wrote about this today. I'd probably call Donovan Smith, and he was atrocious last year. I'd probably call. I think the best answer is DJ Humphries, but he tore his ACL in January. So you're talking about, I think, what is realistically not like he's not going to be back yet. And maybe they're waiting for him. I don't know. Even in the meantime, I would call Donovan Smith. I don't think it's going to look pretty, but I think he'll give you at least some sort of continuity there that you're just not getting right now.
And
And
you have to convince him to play, right? Like, what's
right. And
what's
he
the
has to want
appeal
to
for
play here.
him coming here to a 1-3 team that, isn't like he was
Well,
playing in the Super Bowl last year. Like, why?
I
And
would
they didn't
say
want him, but
he's actually a guy I think you can convince because he's only 30. There's not a lot of good tackles in the league. If you convince him to come here, he's going to get a chance to reset his value. Maybe he gets, one more big contract this
feel like you're
offseason.
gonna start, you're gonna play a
Right. You're
bunch.
going to start. You're not in danger of being benched because he wouldn't be. I'm doing the quarterback here, and I want to throw this on too. Somebody brought up here, we could have had Jaden Daniels. I get why this conversation is happening. I do. The other thing I brought up, right? Yeah, Jaden Daniels picked second, not third. And what did you want them to do? Did you want Chad Ryland to purposely miss field goals? He already cost himself his job. Did you want Bailey Zappi, Mac Jones to purposely throw picks? Like, that's not realistic. We went over this last year. Tanking happens from the GM up, and Bill Belichick was not tanking because he was trying to save his job. That's not realistic. That's not worth criticizing anybody for. When it comes to Jaden Daniels, though, I think let's say the Commanders had taken Drake Maye second and the Patriots had taken Jaden Daniels third, I think we'd be right here doing the same thing. This is not a Drake Maye thing. It's not a Drake Maye thing. This
Do you think Daniels would be playing though here?
No.
Really?
This is my take. I think this is an Elliott Wolf, Gerard Mayo, Alex Van Pelt thing, that they want to sit the quarterback and develop him, in part because of the situation. The reason Washington has the rookie quarterback that's a star already and the Patriots don't is not because of the quarterback they drafted. It's because they signed Cornelius Lucas. They drafted Brandon Coleman. They already had Terry McLaurin. They were a better situation. They had Cliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator. They invested in the offensive line. They had receivers. That, to me, is the difference. I think the Patriots always planned on sitting the quarterback, whether it was Drake Maye, whether it was Jaden Daniels, whether it was J.J. McCarthy. I think they always planned on sitting the quarterback. So debate this all you want. And that's not to say Drake Maye is going to end up justifying the pick and be on Jaden Daniels' level. I'm also not totally there with Jaden Daniels yet. He's been outstanding, but the question with him wasn't ability, it was durability. So let's see if he can do this for a few seasons. But the thing for me is it's not about, oh, well, they could have had Jaden Daniels and he'd be putting up 300 yards and completing 90% of his passes. That's tough to do without an offensive line, without Terry McLaurin. I think it's a Patriots plan thing more than it is just the individual quarterback thing, if that makes sense. And that take's going to piss people off, but I've been feeling this for like 2 weeks.
It's the Packer way, right? That everyone talks
right.
about.
Yeah, it's Packer. Exactly.
So I just like the Jaden Daniels thing. Like, did people expect, like, he's 2 years older than Drake Maye? He's played like 3 more college seasons. Like, yeah, like he was probably, the odds were in his favor to hit the ground running a little bit faster here in the NFL. So I didn't think he'd come in and be like the best quarterback in the league, like how he's kind of playing right now. But yeah, he was supposed to come in and kind of have a step up on some of these other rookie quarterbacks. So
yeah.
But yeah, his situation is really good. Like, there's not a Terry McLaurin here, and Cliff is calling things very well over there. So, but yeah, like, back to Drake. You get their dilemma, the Patriots dilemma, like with the offensive line, but I would just say to you, like, you think, like, you still think he should play at some point this year, right? Like, you're not interested in entire redshirt freshman year almost.
Maybe this is a cop out. I'm kind of feeling split now. I think it would be beneficial to the team for him to play multiple games this year. I think that would be beneficial. You get to see him in this offense, and it kind of helps you tailor your plans for the offseason. You also hopefully get some plays on tape that you can use to sell free agents. That being said, if you're not going to have David Andrews and you're not going to have a left tackle and you're still going to be running 7-step drops, I don't think you're going to get any of that. Like, I don't think the benefit,
those straight 7-step dropbacks.
So I think there's benefit. I just laid out what I think the benefits are to playing him. Obviously, development. The team can evaluate him more complete. Like, obviously, you evaluate the player. You think you know the player getting coming out of college, but seeing him in the context of an NFL offense, your offense definitely helps. And maybe it's all right. We need to pay more attention to this, or we don't need this as much as we thought. Whatever.
And even just, sorry to cut you off, but like,
yeah,
evaluating the other play. Like, we've got nothing on like
Right.
Jalen Polk, Pop
Well, I
Douglas.
want to talk about Jalen Polk, but you're right. And
Yeah,
evaluating the rest of your team, and then obviously the element of maybe you build some juice around the league and guys want to come here. Do you get any of that benefit? Development, internal evaluation, external juice. Do you get any of that benefit putting him in this situation? Like, there was a situation they had. We talked about this last week, right? Left to right, Low, So, Andrews, Onwenu, Wallace. You can give him that, and I think you might get something. You might be able to squeeze a little bit of juice from that orange. If you're not going to have Andrews, you're not going to have, we'll see what Caden Wallace's injury did not sound good.
didn't look good either.
Didn't look good. Yeah. Anytime you see like a walking boot and crutches coming out of the locker room.
Did you see it? It was that 4th and 1 that
he got really
failed.
rolled up on.
3 bodies landed on that leg. That did not look good at all.
I'm not even denying that playing him is more beneficial than sitting him. But can you realistically get any of that benefit if this is what it's going to look like?
Yeah. No, I get it, and that's what they're probably debating right now. But again, like, I go back to, I think he could make things look better, and through the play call, the offense, just his skill set. And I know it's still tough behind the line, but like this line could be as good as it could be, like, going forward with injuries and everything. So it's just tough. Like, I've been on week 5, and I still kind of, I feel like I'm at the point where I'd like to see it, just because, again, I don't know if the line will look better, and I think he could help the line, but we're obviously not. It's going to be Jacoby, and this is just something that they're going to have to. They keep talking about this development plan. They're sticking to it.
So let me ask you this. Gerard Mayo said today there is a plan. They're still sticking to it. The plan hasn't changed, but he can't share what it is because it's really nobody's business. Why do you think he won't share the plan?
I don't know if they're really, like, I don't know how to say this. Like, is the plan changing week to week, like with the offensive line, do you think?
Right. So you're saying he doesn't want to tie himself. Once he shares the plan, he's married to that.
That's a good way. He doesn't want to say like week 8 or week,
right. If the plan is week to week, it'll freak people out. And if you say there's a plan, like even if you're week to week now, once you get to the end, you can say, oh no, this is what we were going to do the whole time. Is it possible he doesn't want to throw people under the bus? Is it possible that the holdup is, at least to some extent, the offensive line or the play calling, and he knows if he says that, he's throwing Wolf and Van Pelt under the bus?
Yeah, I could see that.
I feel like there's disconnect there, and that doesn't necessarily mean, it's not going to work, but yeah.
Because we talked last week that, the comments from Mayo, the comments from Van Pelt, right? Like, there was a little disconnect there. And then even after the game last night, Mayo says, like, we got to figure out, like, schematically how we're going to get the ball out of our hands quicker and stuff like that. So, that's a good point, and I could definitely see that. So, anything else on the quarterbacks there, or?
You surprised at all they didn't put Drake Maye in at the end of the game?
Not really, because it was 2 possessions for most of the fourth quarter there. I guess they had
they
one
thought it was
drive
over.
at the end.
They thought Alex Van Pelt comes out running the ball, huddling. He thought it was over with 10 minutes to go in a 13-point game.
That's very true.
So, I wonder if they're worried about the hype Drake Maye's getting.
The hype train was rolling with the assistant coaches and all that last week.
And then what happens? You have Ian Rappaport come out and say he's a ways away. They don't put him in the game. Now, Gerard Mayo's a lot more assertive about Jacoby Brissett than he's been. We kind of talked about this with Joe Milton, right? That they were going to be careful and make sure that Joe Milton didn't steal too much thunder from Drake Maye after going through Zappy fever. Are they doing the same with Brissett and May? I do wonder if we're not going to see Drake Maye again, because they don't want to create distractions. Probably not exactly the right word, but you see what I'm saying? Like, they want to be able to go about their business without having to answer questions about this, which I understand. But I was they were acting like that game was over, and they still didn't put him in.
Yeah. But also, like, when you have him, when you have the shiny car in the garage and Jacoby's playing like this, right? Like, it's going to come no matter what. You're going to get questions. You're going to get the hype. But yeah,
Right.
like just putting him out there, and if he leads a touchdown drive or makes a couple, really good plays, like that's just adding fuel to the fire. So yeah, you could see maybe their point there. But um, so how are you fixing this offensive line? If you want to get eventually, well, just work towards a functioning offense, because that's still the biggest thing kind of plaguing it. And hopefully you get somewhat comfortable that you get Drake Maye in there. You laid out the five we liked going into the game, and then you lose Caden Wallace. So like you're down your potential right tackle, and now you might not kick Mike Onwenu back inside. David Andrews, who knows what that shoulder injury is going to be. So how are you trying to construct this starting five up front now moving forward? Besides, I see all the Coy Cronk comments in the chat.
Yeah,
Besides
I saw those on the post game. Keep the Coy Cronk talk coming.
yes, all the Coy
I got
Cronk.
I got a good kick out of that.
Besides signing our
We'll
savior,
do another
Coy Cronk.
crossover soon, and that will get brought up.
Yeah.
How am I fixing the offensive line? So
Good
yeah, I
question.
mean, we don't know about injuries. First off, I'm signing a center. I'm going out and finding an experienced NFL center, and maybe Nick Leverett
they have
still
Brian
your
Hudson,
starter.
but he's a rookie, right?
Rookie, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Nick Leverett still starts. And Nick Leverett honestly wasn't bad in place of David Andrews, but we saw the wheels kind of fall off that wagon over the summer. So I want to have like a solid plan B, or at the very least, sign Brian Hudson to the active roster in case Nick Leverett gets hurt. But yeah, I think a center.
That's
like I said before.
Too, just side note, them not activating. Were you surprised they didn't activate an extra offensive lineman for that game? Like they were at a point they lost
Yes
Caden
and no.
Wallace, and they were down just to Zach Thomas, and they activated Mitchell Wilcox, who played like single digit snaps. I thought like they were kind of teetering on a dangerous line there.
Surprise wouldn't be the right word, because again, they've neglected the offensive line to this point. I don't know why that would change, but not what's that saying? Like not surprised, just disappointed. Not
mad, disappointed.
So yeah, I'd sign a center. I'd sign one of those veteran tackles. So I don't know who you're putting at right tackle though. I guess I might honestly maybe look at a right tackle. Like you're not going to get a guy like Jason Peters, but because he's not trying to get another contract. He's trying to win a ring. Like if Wallace is going to miss time, I actually think you have to get a right tackle, because then you can play low at left and kick Onwenu inside. You got to get Onwenu back inside. Like that honestly might be priority number one. Is
Layden
how do you
Robinson
get Mike?
Was rough and pass. He's been rough and pass pro, and yesterday again was pretty
Everybody
bad.
got all excited. I don't know what that first week they come out, and it was not just the fans. Like everybody was like, "Oh, this guy's an all pro. What a find!" Like, I never saw that from him. I don't know where that came from.
There's stuff to like, but
there's stuff to like, but
he's not
it was
ready.
It was a bit much, right? So you got to get Mike Onwenu back inside. If you can go, I guess you don't have Andrews. And this is where I'm hesitant with Drake Maye. Well, I guess if you have and Onwenu in the middle, like whoever the center is, okay. Vidarian Lowe's injury did not seem bad. He's been back at practice. You can get him at left tackle. Maybe try Caleb Jones on the right side. Maybe sign somebody. Yeah, I don't know. McKenzie's played some right. You could try Jalen McKenzie out there. They don't have the bodies. They came in without enough tackles to realistically get through a season. I get there's going to be injuries. I get that. And they're on their fourth string. Sure, really third string. Nobody is asking the third string tackle to be an all pro. Like that's not what I'm trying to do. It's more, that's a position that has a high rate of injury. And you've dealt with injuries there, and you've been limited by injuries there the last few years. Brian, at one point in that game yesterday, Caden Wallace goes out. Vidarian Lowe's already hurt. Chuks Okorafor has been gone. The only tackle that was with them in camp that was available to them was Mike Onwenu, who's a guard. The only other tackles are DeMontre Jacobs, who's a waiver claim, and Zach Thomas, who's a guard. And then they have two guys on the practice squad, neither of whom are with them in camp. So I can't believe I'm doing this. But to move on from a guy like Calvin Anderson, and I know he was like IR released, but he's on the Steelers, so he's clearly okay. To move on from a guy like Calvin Anderson, to move on from a guy like Connor McDermott, we should not be at the point.
I was just going to say, what's Connor McDermott doing nowadays?
He's on a team because the Rams are just as banged up as the Patriots. But to be at a point where we're talking about Calvin Anderson and Connor McDermott potentially could have bailed the Patriots out yesterday is kind of wild. But yeah, this isn't oh, they needed better than Chooks and they should have taken a tackle higher, and it's literally just bodies. It's literally like just not having the correct number of players at the position you need to get through a year. And this happens from time to time. They did it at running back a couple years ago. But if you're Elliott Wolf in your first year as GM, EVP, whatever, part of the reason you're here is because the previous person sitting in that chair did not properly attend to the offensive line. And this is what you come to the dance with? Like, how can you not be frustrated by that? And it's handcuffing them. It is. I don't mean to keep going back to the offensive line. I know people are probably sick of me saying that, and they want to hear me rip Drake Maye or rip Jacoby Brissett or rip the defense, and we'll get to the defense. But and it's been years of this. We did this, 2 years ago. Oh, why won't you talk about Mac Jones? Like, we can talk about Mac Jones, but the line's the line. Yeah, this is just what it is. What's Yadni Kajus doing? Good point. What's Yadni Kajus doing?
Did Zuri Henry sign with anyone? Can we bring Zuri Henry back?
So with him in camp eventually.
Right. I was just the top center.
Zuri Henry is not on a team.
There we go.
I think Yadni Kajus is on somebody's IR, actually.
The top centers available are Mason Cole, Brian Allen.
Yeah, there's not great options.
Ricky Stromberg. Yeah.
Stromberg was hurt. Stromberg, I think, is hurt. I was looking that up earlier. There's really no great options, but
you just keep refreshing, hoping someone will show up, and just no one shows up. So, but you're right. I mean, it's been frustrating for multiple years now, and now it's kind of restricting them from putting their number 3 overall pick on the field. So it is frustrating to a point. And yeah, it's just pure lack of bodies at this point, right? Like someone said, like, is it too late to move on Wenu back inside? Like, that's what you'd like, but they just don't have another tackle to put out there. Would you feel comfortable with Demontre Jacobs like on the right side if Lowe is on the left, and then you can settle down the interior? Like, I know Jacobs, I thought he started okay, and then it just completely fell off when they started putting Nick Bosa on him over on the left side there. But like, I don't know, he might be your top tackle there if you want to kick Mike Onwenu back inside.
That's where I may actually try Caleb Jones.
Okay. Because you get your bigger right tackle.
He profiles more of a right tackle. Yeah, he profiles. And the other thing, you might need Demontre Jacobs to play left tackle. That's just the reality of it.
True.
Like, you kind of might need him over there, because what happens if Adarian Lowe gets hurt again? So, and I don't think Caleb Jones is a left tackle in their system. I know he's played it. He's played on both sides, at least in preseason. He hasn't played an NFL snap yet, but I would almost try Caleb Jones over there and just keep working with Demontre Jacobs at left tackle, because I do think you're going to need him back there. You're probably going to need him back there at some point. I'm not wishing for injuries or anything, but again, guys get hurt and they don't have another left tackle besides Adarian Lowe. And I don't want to see them put Caden Wallace back over there, because really he should be your right tackle. I would rather, when everybody's healthy, let's say something happens to Lowe, I would rather Caden Wallace on the right side and Demontre Jacobs stepping in than moving Caden Wallace over to left, Mike Onwenu out, like right on and on and on. So, yeah, I would be developing Caleb Jones as a right tackle if I were the Patriots. You've already started Demontre Jacobs at left. Keep working with him. You might as well. Yeah.
Yep. Or maybe Cole Strange will come and save the day somehow, some way. But we'll see. Okay, that's quarterback, offensive line, big stories as usual here. We'll move on to the rest of the offense, but very quickly before we do that, I need to tell you guys about PrizePicks, which is the best place to get real money on sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Barth and I submit our Patriots lineups every game day, and you can join in or extend it to the entire league with stars like Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Malik Neighbors, and more. I've loved using rookie Malik Neighbors in my lineups. He's been unbelievable to start the season. And even though he got hurt last game, PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with injury insurance policy. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup live. So download PrizePicks today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup on PrizePicks. Run your game. All right. The rest of the offense, you wanted to, I believe you said you had something about Jalen Polk. What'd you see from him yesterday against the 49ers there?
Yeah, I mean, you want a bright spot from that game. I thought Jalen Polk looked really good, and he's continued to. Like, this has been a thing all year where he's not getting a ton of opportunities because the rest of the offense just isn't there, but the opportunities he gets, he makes. He made a couple contested catches. The go ball late in the game, I know, was ruled incomplete. That's a hell of a play by him. That ball realistically should be intercepted. For him to come as close as he did to making that a catch in his 4th NFL game. Again, this year is about development. This year is about the big picture. That's super encouraging to see. That's really good to see moving forward. There are a few other times where he's open and he either wasn't at the top of the progression or Jacoby Brissett just missed him or whatever. But like, I don't know that he's going to be like a top 5 receiver in the league, right? I'm not saying that, but he looks like he can contribute to a functional NFL offense. That feels pretty legit through 4 games.
Yep. And he's someone else. Like, that's why I would love May to get in there, because I feel like he would really unlock him a little bit more downfield and using some of those routes. So then you could hopefully get more of the whole picture on Polk as a player. But yeah, I thought he was really good yesterday. I mean, that back shoulder ball, which, give Jacoby credit too. That was a great pass, taking an absolute shot as he threw it. But, late hands, strong hands, that was really impressive. So hopefully they can get more of those down the field. Again, you got to get the defense to kind of back off a little bit with their blitz rate. So keep hitting some of those more downfield. So I thought Polk was really good. But anything from the rest of that receiver room? We saw a little more Kayshon Boutte, a lot less Tyquan Thornton. Anything out of those guys, or even the tight ends and as pass catchers?
No, let's skip to the running backs. I think those are the guys we need to talk about.
Well, let me just, with the receivers, do you want to see more Javon Baker? Or
no, I'm good.
No, you're good.
No, especially with KB coming back. And I think they're kind of phasing out Tyquan Thornton because that's Kendrick Bourne's going to go in that role. But yeah, I'm good on Javon Baker. They need guys they can count on at this point. They need reliable players. He's too boom or bust.
Yep. So yeah, you mentioned KB will come back. That should be a nice boost for them. So he could probably take some snaps from Tyquan, snaps from KJ Osborne, be a nice boost. But running backs, another fumble for Ramondre Stevenson, 4 in 4 games. They benched him for like a series, which was like a 3 and out. So like a short benching, if you even want to call it that. But I don't know. Like he had 2 hands on the ball. I think he's just kind of psyching himself out. Like Greg Olsen said on the broadcast, like it just gets in your head and you think about it too much. I don't know if that's what's going on with him, but it's just kind of unacceptable. You have to hold on to the ball. 4 in 4 games is absurd.
Yeah, he's putting the coaching staff in a really tough position here because on one hand, you can't have that guy on the field. You can't. It was a point of emphasis this week. It was a major talking point, all of that. And he fumbled again and early in the game. And it wasn't like that great of a play by the defense. Ball's out there. On the other hand, that's a top 2 playmaker in your offense, and they don't seem too interested in using Demario Douglas. So you're really limiting yourself if he's not on the field. I had almost get, like the fantasy football treatment. You put the guy in the flex as like a ceremonial bet, like start Antonio Gibson and Stevenson still plays, but like you got to do something. You can't take him off the field, but you got to do something. You can't give him as big of a role as he's had, because if he's going to put the ball on the ground, the team just isn't built to overcome that.
Yep. Absolutely. Did you like Gibson? I mean, he had the big explosive, which was kind of just a coverage bust, but would you be comfortable expanding his role based
Yeah,
off what you've seen from him?
he's
Yeah.
looked good. Absolutely.
Yep.
I wonder if they elevate Kevin Harris from the practice squad to maybe kind of send a message.
That would be a good point. Or I mean, Kevin Harris would probably be ahead of Terrell Jennings at this point. I would love Terrell Jennings though. I love how he runs, but yeah, you could definitely see something of that. But yeah, Pop too. Like I don't know. He's getting open. I still go back to the quote from Jacoby in the summer where he's like, "I'm just not comfortable throwing to him yet," and I wonder just how much trust is there between the two. But yeah, you see him like he looks frustrated at times on film, as you would imagine he is because he's not getting the ball. But they gotta figure something out there. And again, like you always say, like you don't want to force him the ball, but you just got to get him involved because he's one of your best playmakers.
Yeah, but it's you got to. What happens if he fumbles again? Like at a certain point, there has to be consequence, right?
Yep. Yep. All right. Any last notes on the offense there, or we can flip it over to the defense?
Yeah, real quick because I see some people putting in the comments. Little just sports breaking news: Pete Rose passing away at the age of 83. That's a big one. That's a big one. A quick thought on that. Absolute travesty he didn't live to see himself get inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Did he play it a little loose betting on like should players bet on games they play in? No, I think that's where the line is. But it's I don't think it's ever been confirmed. I don't know you could confirm it, but it's been as confirmed as he can. Didn't bet against his own team. By all accounts, never did anything to throw a game or anything like that. There's guys that did a lot worse that are in. Shoeless Joe should be in. Pete Rose should be in. Barry Bonds should be in.
Yes.
Obviously, Rodney Harrison, Larry Sanders, but those are different situations. And I think he'll get in. I mean, it's insane the way gambling is completely engrossed the culture of baseball and professional sports, and we're still holding it against these guys. But he won't be there to see it, and that's a shame. And the voters should be ashamed of themselves today.
Definitely.
There is other. By the way, we got some Bruins breaking news too. I don't know.
I saw that. I was just.
All right, we're going to do a Boston Sportsman at the end. I just saw a lot of people commenting on that in the chat, so I just wanted
we're due for a Boston.
Put it in there.
So
we're doing a Boston Sportsman. There's a lot to talk about. We're doing a Boston Sportsman.
We had quite the day in Boston sports land. But let's quickly touch.
Pete Rose passed away at 83.
Yep. But let's quickly touch on the defense. I'm kind of conflicted on the defense because at one hand, it wasn't great. Again, like some of those same issues popping up, contained in the pocket, lots of explosive plays. Like I think they hit 5 pass plays over 25 yards, and most of them were like over 40 yards. But when you look at the big picture, it was 23 points allowed on the road against, a really good team again in San Francisco, who their offense was, I know they were banged up, but they had most of their guys out there. So I don't know. What was your just kind of overall takeaway from the defense there yesterday?
It was more about situational football than the overall performance. Like they played at a certain level for most of the day, but their biggest mistakes came on big plays or at big moments of the game, blowing contained on third downs. The big one was, all right, so you come out of the half, you force fumble on the kickoff, you score a touchdown, like you're right in this thing. Boom, 53 yards over the top to Deebo Samuel because Jalen Hawkins let him get behind him as the deep safety. That's more what bugged me. I think there were more issues with the front than the secondary. There's some issues with the secondary, but it was more situational to me than anything else. I didn't think it was like an overall poor performance. There's some stuff there to like. But when they really needed to make a play, they didn't make a play. They made some other plays at lesser impact moments of the game, but not when they and that's when you want that, that's a hallmark of the Bill Belichick defense. You could set your watch to it. Oh, turnover would be big here. Boom, they'd come up with it. And I know they got that one interception late, but too many mistakes too early. We can get into some of the specifics of it. We kind of talked about it with Ramondre Stevenson, Josh Uche. They got to do something there. And some of it's depth. They don't have a ton on the edge, and I don't know who you put in for him. especially with Anthony Jennings out. They missed him bad yesterday, but
Yeah.
Josh Uche is actively hurting the team. Josh Uche, whenever he's on the field, is actively hurting the team.
He's being way too aggressive. Like
it's not even aggressive at this point. It's reckless. Like
that's
it's one thing to be aggressive. There's a line between aggressive and reckless, and he's not even like toying with that line. He's well past it at this point.
And players are kind of like actively talking about it, like without calling him out specifically, but like Devon Godshaw was on the radio today and says, guys are kind of being selfish with trying to make plays. And Peppers was talking today to us on Zoom, and he was kind of saying like, guys aren't trying to do too much, but they're trying to like, you got to do what you got to do for the betterment of the defense. And you're not seeing that from some of these guys, especially Joshua Uche right now. And, someone says linebacker need, they really need Seon Taki or Marte Mapu back and playing linebacker right now, because Tavai was, off the ball a lot again today or yesterday. And he was on hand for like 3 of their explosive pass plays. So that's not working, with Bentley out, and they need to get him ideally back on the ball. And then, hopefully like Taki or Mapu can kind of fill in there and help with your pass coverage there, because they were picking on Tavai a few times, and we know like that's not his game. So I don't know if it's needed in the draft, but they need one of these guys to come back. They can start practicing Wednesday. There were no updates on them for Mayo, but we'll see there. So
yeah, I just to go back to Uche along those lines too, because maybe Taki helps him with this a little bit. Like I've seen people say either you're coaching it or you're allowing it to happen, and at a certain point there's no difference, which is true. And this also applies to Stevenson. But who else are they putting in there, Brian? Like who's the next guy up there?
On edge, at the edge? Yeah, because O'Shane Zimenez tore his ACL. We learned that. He's out for the year.
The guy they signed in his place is more like a defensive end than a linebacker. It's just not him. Like, again, it goes down to like, it'll be interesting to see how the coaching staff responds. And maybe Anthony Jennings is back next week and we see a lot less from Josh Uche. But the fact that players are calling it out, like it does feel like he's freelancing. And again, like with Stevenson, Uche can be an explosive player. And we talked about this when they traded Matthew Judon. Nobody needed to step up more than Josh Uche in that situation. But they like, can you afford to leave that guy on the field? Taylor says Curtis Jacobs, and that's right. He did play a little bit against San Francisco. Fine, play Curtis Jacobs, but you're losing a lot of natural athletic ability that they just can't afford to lose. But you might have to do it because the guy's hurting the team.
Yeah, I was gonna say they don't even have another, just on their like unofficial depth chart. They don't even have another outside linebacker. It's Jennings and Joshua Uche. And then Jacobs, it's like Jacobs and Christian Ellis, who are those linebackers, but Ellis more off ball. So yeah, maybe it is Curtis Jacobs. They're another one of the waiver claims, but we'll see what happens, because he is actively hurting the team, and maybe the message gets across and he kind of hones it in. But if not, they might have to make a switch there. Or maybe they just make a switch and he doesn't even get the chance, right? Like Mayo said, there has to be a point where you get disciplined for these repeat errors and repeat mistakes, right? And he's certainly at that point. So we'll see his role going forward. But to the secondary, did you notice anything with those explosive plays or just anything in general? They lost Kyle Duggar. That's obviously a big loss. We saw a little more Jalen Hawkins, some Del Pettis too, but anything in the secondary from yesterday that worried you, interested you, that you noted in general?
Not really. There were some plays like that George Kittle touchdown. I mean, good for him. Like, yeah, what are you going to do? Right. The guy's unbelievable. I would have liked to see them switch it up, maybe in the slot, give Isaiah Bolden a little more run, but not the biggest concern for me. Like, I think the secondary playing like that, it wasn't perfect. If that's their biggest concern on the roster, they're in pretty good shape though.
Yep. Agree with you there, but I think that's it for defense, unless you have any other notes as a unit as a whole.
The tackling was better, but it wasn't great again. And that goes back to, again, they need some of these middle linebackers back.
Definitely. So hopefully they get some good news in the health department with all those guys coming back. And then we'll see with Kyle Duggar how bad that. It was an ankle injury. He was in a boot too. So not great there. But Maybe the best part of the day was special teams. Another really good day from Jeremy Springer's unit. Joey Sly had a 63-yard field goal, a 54-yard field goal. Bryce Behringer, all 4 of his punts down inside the 20. Great coverage by, Brendan Schooler. Joe Cardona even got involved again. Christian Ellis was in for a tackle. And then Christian Ellis makes, one of the plays of the day on the second half kickoff, forces a fumble, recovers a fumble, sets up the lone touchdown of the day for the offense. So special teams has been encouraging. And if they want to win games like the way we think they want to win games, which is control the clock and run the ball, they need these types of performances from special teams to try to steal, a possession or two, or even, get some points on the board like they kind of did. So it's been really encouraging from that unit through the first month here.
Yeah, it has. And this is a team that if they're going to win, I mean, they got to clean some other things up, but if they're going to win, they're going to have to win on the margins, and special teams is the margin. And they've now had, first game was a masterclass. Second and third game, significantly more good than bad. There were a couple things there to nitpick, but I thought overall encouraging. And then they go back to, again, a near perfect game on Sunday. Behringer, Sly, Cardona, Schooler, Christian Ellis was awesome. If they win, Christian Ellis gets a game ball. I have no doubt about that. And they're going to need this unit to be that. And look, you want a little sliver of hope if you're a Patriots fan? Jeremy Springer might be really good at this. And I know people are going to roll their eyes at that and say, what about AVP? What about DeMarcus Covington? What about Drake Maye? I'm not saying we can't have that conversation, but don't lump Jeremy Springer into that one. Jeremy Springer might be good at this.
Yep. Great early returns from that unit. So hopefully they can keep that going. But I believe we could wrap up there. Actually, one more question. First quarter, first drive, did you like the decision to punt
No.
on the 4th and 1 there from, or 4th and 3, was it? I think 4th and 3.
4th and 3. I didn't like that. What I disliked more was it the second quarter where they went for it. They actually went for it on the 4th and 1. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The run, right?
Yeah. So I already kind of talked about this, but they come out lined up for a tush push. That was a long one. You're not tush pushing that. You're not fooling anybody. They call the timeout. Then they line up to go. I think did I just talk about this? Might have been another podcast today.
I don't think so.
And they come out. It was the play Caden Wallace got hurt. They had Caden Wallace tackle eligible. So you have an extra tackle on the right side. And they have the tight end lined up next to the left tackle on the left side. 4th string left tackle compared to Mike Onwenu, Caden Wallace. And they run off the left side on 4th and 1. So 2 things. 1, if you're going to go for it, go. Don't blow the timeout. It's one thing if you're going to try to get him to jump and then call timeout and kick the field goal or take the delay and punt, like whatever, fine. I hate, we're going to get him to fake. We're going to try to get him to jump. If they don't, we're going to call timeout and then go. You can get him to jump at first and then shift into whatever look you want to be in. Unnecessary use of a timeout. The other thing, and this is an Alex Van Pelt thing, that's the second time they've done something like that this year where they put in a heavy personnel grouping and they run to the weak side. 3rd down in overtime against Seattle, they actually went unbalanced line and they put Hunter Henry next to the left guard and had Caden Wallace and Mike Onwenu next to each other on the right side, next to Lane Robinson. Those are your 3 best run blockers. I understand not wanting to be predictable, but 1, you don't necessarily have the offensive line personnel where you can chance it behind your weaker players. 2, there are certain moments in football games, especially if you're going to be a run-heavy team, where it's, I know what I'm doing, you know what I'm doing, stop it, right? We're just going to bully you and get what we want. We're going to bully you and get a yard. These are those situations. This is now twice where they've gotten too cute, lined up off balance heavy, and run against it. They need to cut that out. It's not working. It's not going to work. I get what they're going for. Again, they're like, all right, well, all the big guys are over here, so we're going to sneak it back here where they're not looking. You're not good enough. The guys you have on the backside are getting blown off the ball. It's happened twice now. They need to stop doing that. It's not going to work.
Yeah. I thought Van Pelt was like better overall with his, quick hitters, get the ball out quick, but he still just seems to kind of overthink some of those easy ones. And back to the early punt on the first drive, that was coward football. Like, you're a 10.5 point underdog on the road. You picked up some first downs. you're in their territory, like 4th and 3, like you got to go for that. And I get like you trust your defense, you trust your special teams, but they drove the ball 90 yards and they kicked a field goal. So I didn't love that call, but and also they had them right where they wanted, down 14 points to Kyle Shanahan in the fourth quarter. What happened there?
That was another thing. So they had that, and then this one already, I already talked about. Van Pelt comes out just lackadaisical with it.
Yep.
Like, push the ball. This team can be had in that spot.
Yep. All right. So any last thoughts, or we can sneak in a Boston Sports Minute here to wrap up?
Yeah, let's do a Boston Sports Minute, because there are some things that need to be addressed.
All right. I don't know if we have our background. Oh, we do have a background. Let's throw that up. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the news of the hour.
So Jeremy Swayman.
So if you missed it today at Bruins Media Day, and for those who don't follow the Bruins, Bruins goalie Jeremy Swayman is one of the better goalies in the league, needs a new contract. He's currently a restricted free agent, and we were told, don't worry, it's not going to last in a camp. It lasted in a camp. Don't worry, it's not going to last into the regular season. They came out today and said he's not going to start. He's probably not going to be the start of the regular season. They said they have great belief in Jonas Korpisalo. He's done everything they've asked him to do. Does that sound familiar to you, Brian? But they were asked about, what the gap is in the negotiations. And Cam Neely, who's Bruins president of hockey operations or whatever it is, said, if I were him, I have 64 million reasons why I'd be playing. That represents what is an 8-year, $8 million a year contract, which is kind of what everybody seems to think is the fair deal for Swayman. And then within the last 30 minutes, Swayman's agency releasing this statement. Normally, I do not release statements or discuss negotiations through the media. However, in this case, I feel I need to defend my client. At today's press conference, $64 million was referenced. This is the first time that number was discussed in our negotiations. Prior to the press conference, no offer was made reaching that level. We are extremely disappointed. This was not fair to Jeremy. We will take a few days to discuss where we are going to go from here. Yikes. How you feel about your goaltending situation, Brian?
Jonas Korpisalo. He looked good in the preseason, baby. Goalie Bob. Well, first of all, like, Jeremy Swayman's agent is known for this, Louis Gross. Like, he hardballed Johnny Gaudreau to the point where, Gaudreau had to be like, sign the damn contract. I want to play hockey. And then Nylander with the Leafs, like, he dragged it out to December 1st, which is kind of like the deadline for this. So he is kind of known for playing hardball. So hardball. So I wonder, like, I don't know. Like, I don't think Neely would throw that number out and lie about that. And like, I don't blame him for doing that. Like, because they've had no issues leaking that the Bruins aren't returning phone calls and they're lowballing him. Like, good for them to kind of throw that number out and say, like, we have an 8x8 on the table here, which is more than fair for Jeremy Swayman. I know he's a great goalie, but he's played 125 games. He started 125 games in the regular season and only like 20 playoff starts. Like, that's not someone who should be asking for 10 plus million and to reset the goalie market. Like, he hasn't proved. I think he can be a number one, but he simply hasn't proved it. So I think 8x8 is more than fair. It falls like in between. I think it's like John Gibson at like 6.5, and I'm blanking on the Islanders goalie who's like 8.5. So it's more than fair. And he keeps saying he wants to be here, but I don't know. None of this today seems like a good discussion from these two. So
I'm nervous. I'll be honest, because it was don't worry about, like, the fact it's gotten this. Everybody said it wouldn't get this far, and the next benchmark is December 1st. If he doesn't have a deal done by December 1st, he's ineligible to play this year, and they'll basically lose him for nothing. I don't think that would happen.
He doesn't get a year of service though, so they'd
have to do all this again.
Yeah, he would still just be restricted.
But that's not going to happen. Like, at that point, they're going to have to trade him.
So that's the tough part, because if they hold their line, and they go into the regular season, and Jonas Korpisalo is playing like great hockey, like they're in line for a wild card or maybe even the division, like, they could just sit there and be like, look, we have our offer. It's fair. We really don't need you right now, right? And then Swayman might say, okay, either I need to sign this or I lose a year, or like trade me. But at that point, like middle of the year, like how's the market for him going to be? So that's the interesting thing. Like this is going to get good going into the season because it could just go the opposite way. And Corpusalo plays like he did last year and stinks up the joint. And now, like the Bruins are sitting there being like, we need Jeremy Swayman to be competitive. Our team is built through the defense and goaltending. Like we need this guy out there because Corpusalo is not playing well. So it's going to get good. Like the first 10, 15 games of the regular season here could really decide how this negotiation goes, honestly.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And I, I don't necessarily fault if there really is an 8/8 and
That's
he's
more
not
than
accepting
fair.
that.
Yeah.
The Bruins, fine. Like this is not a team that's a goalie away. They need more pieces. And you can't, that's all their cap. Like they're done at that point. And really for the foreseeable future. If you're getting something out of Corpusalo or you're getting something, maybe Brendan Bussey breaks out. Yeah. All right. Sorry. You want $10 million a year? We can't do that. We'll trade you. And I know nobody signed him to a tender, Swayman, a restricted free agent tender, but it'd be what, 3 first-round picks? Like that's not worth it. Maybe there's a team that is willing to give him 10 that you say, all right, give us 1 first, right? Or give us a first and a third or something like that. How you feeling about your hockey team besides that?
Good, but I'm can't believe they sent Fabian Lysell down already. Like I thought this is a team that needs, first of all, any young guy who plays well for them is a bonus at this point. And you have a former first round pick who I thought was playing very well in the preseason. I know he only scored 1 goal, but I thought he looked good. Like he was skating in practice next to Marshy and Coyle. He never got to play in the preseason with NHLers. It was mostly AHLers. And I think he got 1 game with like Johnny Beecher, who's like a 4th liner. So you have another like week of camp, a couple more preseason games. Like I don't get the point of sending him down now when you could have just kept him up here and let him run with NHLers and let him try to grab a spot. And I know Sweeney said today like he might come back up, which hopefully he does, because that's a real injection of what they need in their top 6. He can skate and he can score. I know he's got issues away from the puck, like defensively. That's been the reason he's been kind of stuck in Providence and injuries. But if you put him next to Charlie Coyle and Brad Marchand, like he better be on top of it or they're going to send him down anyway. So it's better than Morgan Geekie or Tyler Johnson, who's on a PTO, I would imagine, in top 6. So I wanted them to give him that shot.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to like, we talked about, I think whatever the last time we did this, like Jim Montgomery is a lame duck head coach right now. And is he going to say, I want to play this 21-year-old kid who's not getting back on defense, who like the ceiling might be higher, but like maybe he cost me a win or two when I could just play Morgan Geekie, who's, going to be sound. He's going to be solid. He's not going to score a lot. He doesn't have the high ceiling, but like he's going to win me games right now and maybe not lose my job, where, the ceiling of Lysell might elevate them in the playoffs down the line, but maybe he doesn't want to go through the bumps and bruises now. Again, sounds familiar, right? But so
Right.
that's again like kind of a big picture with the Bruins right now. It's like I know the Swayman contract is taking a lot of the headlines, but like that Montgomery one could be interesting if it affects how he manages this team and some of the young guys don't get shots here.
Real quick, before we go to the Red Sox, I see there's some discourse around Christian Gonzalez in the chat. Gonzalez does follow the other team's best receiver. This is the only game he didn't do it, and it's the Niners. They have like 3 number 1 wide receivers, so it makes sense. Also on the Red Sox, obviously their season ended yesterday. 81-81, play
Perfect.
162 games, run differential +4. Crap the bed in the second half of the season again. Good job by Chris Cotillo today asking Sam Kennedy if the standard has changed. And Kennedy said it hasn't, but he was annoyed with that question. He was annoyed with that question, which lets you know, yes, it has. He said the standard is playing baseball in October. The Red Sox have not played baseball in October in a long time. This is going to be the 3rd year in a row they haven't done so, 4th in the last 5. Or 4th in the last 6, I think. Did they make the playoffs in 19?
No, no, I don't think so.
All right, so they didn't. So 4th time in the last 6 years, and 3rd year in a row. Sorry, 5th time in the last 6 years, 3rd year in a row they're not playing baseball in October. If this is really the standard, you need to change the way you're operating because it's unacceptable. To trot out, this is going to sound a lot like my offensive line rant, to trot out the pitching staff you did this season, knowing what it takes to get through a 162-game season, especially when Andrew Bailey's method has guys dropping like flies in April and May. Unacceptable. They also need to get some right-handed hitters. You play at Fenway Park for whatever's sake. Play at Fenway Park. Get some right-handed hitters. Go out, get a real shortstop, not Trevor Story. His elbow does not work anymore. You can leave him in the lineup. They have to leave him in the lineup. That contract's an albatross.
He can play second.
Right. Put him in, get a real second baseman. Stop. This is a second year in a row.
Vaughn Grisham did look good like the last.
Yeah, like the 10 games he played.
Yeah,
this is the second year in a row. We did it with Alberto Mondesi 2 years ago, and now we did it with Vaughn Grisham. Put a real ball club together. Yeah. Put a real major league caliber ball club together. Give me 26 representative players. And they'll say, well, the kids made progress, so the year's a success. Then I better freaking see the kids. And I know we just did this with Drake Maye, and people may think I sound like a hypocrite. We're not putting Roman Anthony behind a 48% pressure rate. It's different. It's different. Also, you got to trade one of them. Again, They have too many lefty bats. I've been a big Marcelo Mayer guy. I think it might be time to think about it because he's struggling to stay healthy. And I know I said they need a shortstop. You know, the Boston Red Sox go out, pay a shortstop. Maybe you trade Anthony for more developed shortstop. There's going to be a lot of guys available this offseason. You have Roman Anthony. He's legit. You got some pitchers coming up, but go out and actually invest in the ball club. Or tell me to my face, tell Red Sox fans to their face that the standard has changed. Because this has been my take about Red Sox ownership. They think you are dumb. They think you Red Sox fans are dumb. They think that it can be perfectly sunny and they can still tell you an umbrella because they told you it's raining and you'll believe them. So put up or shut up is basically where I'm at with the Red Sox. That Mets Braves thing today, that doubleheader was awesome. I don't know if you saw any of that, Brian. That was great.
I watched the first game. Yeah, that was unbelievable.
That was a good time. You have a ton of fun teams in the playoffs this year. This is going to be a fun baseball postseason. Boy, do I miss the Red Sox being a part of that, or even coming close to being a part of that. Again, give me something like today. Even if they lose and they don't make the playoffs, like they've been out of it for like 2 weeks now, and realistically probably a month, but essentially 2 weeks. Just give me some drama in September. But the standard hasn't changed. They're still trying to play in October. Yeah. And that's why they haven't done it 5 of the last 6 years.
It's sad. Like, I love the Red Sox, but it's just like nothing look. I think this is the first year. I don't even know. Like, I didn't go to a game in Fenway this year. And I don't know the last time.
I went, but my friend paid for the ticket.
Okay. So you didn't give John Henry any money.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Like, I don't
ate and drank beforehand.
Perfect. I don't remember the last time I went a whole baseball season without going to a game at Fenway. So it's just. It's disappointing. And I know some of these kids will come up next year and it'll be exciting. You know, there's nothing more exciting than when you get like a top pick. Like we're waiting for Drake Maye here, like into the lineup, and you get a prospect in there. But you got to do more than just these kids. You got to support them somehow. And I think it might have been Milliken on the Sports Hub. I forget where I heard it, but like, or Carabas on their show, like they made a good point. Like, the leadership in that clubhouse too, like they need someone who those guys can look up to, these young guys coming in. So whether that is Trevor Story, like he seems to have, I know he's not always healthy, which is annoying, but he seems to have some of that, like saying like he like wearing the Red Sox uniform still means something to him. Like they need some more of that. So that'll be exciting. But Celtics had media day too last week, I think. How are you?
Yeah, the Celtics better show us something, and I think they will. I think they'll repeat. Just because I don't really think anybody else got better. The Knicks, Cat doesn't do it for me. I'm not scared of Karl Anthony Towns. I'm not scared of really Oklahoma City and Denver. That's it. But they should repeat. They still have the best team in the league, and I think they got better. I really think they got better. And Joe Mazzulla, I think last year he learned a lot. And people know I wasn't a big Joe Mazzulla guy. I think he learned a ton last year, and I think that was incredibly valuable for him. So not much to yell about with the Celtics. Like they should win and that's not me saying I wish we could yell about, but like there's not much to do. Like the Celtics, it's funny. The Celtics are kind of the same as the Patriots in that it's very repetitive. You're kind of just talking about the same thing every game, every year with them for the last 3 or 4 years, especially last year. It's all good instead of all bad. Like, oh, they blew another team out. Great. Now what? So, yeah, I'm high on the Celtics. I want to see Tatum get that MVP.
Yeah. I think I'm almost more excited for them this year. Just like all the hate they got and like, oh, the
It
championship
is going to
doesn't
be
count.
fun.
Like, it would be really fun if they just kind of steamroll everyone again and be like, okay, now what are you going to say? We went back to back. We walked through everyone, right? And they obviously have the team to do that. So I'm excited to watch them this year, and hopefully they can repeat some of that success. But
I think they might be a little less in the regular season just because they had such a long year going to the finals and then the Olympics for some of these guys, right? And I think they make more of a point of
like, do we have a
Porzingis is
Porzingis
dealing with an
timeline?
injury. They said at least like around Christmas is when he's supposed to be back. I would slow play that if I'm the Celtics, and I'm so fine with that. So I think maybe a little bit of a drop off in the regular season, which is fine, like which is totally okay. They're going to be a wagon again in the playoffs. By the way, Will Levis has already thrown an interception.
I was just going to say, he just threw an interception. So
I think that's our cue to wrap it up here and start watching some of these Monday night games.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us. 2 Monday night games. Everyone go watch those. Go to PrizePicks. Maybe want to win some money while you watch them. But again, Patriots lose 30-13 to the 49ers. They fall to 1-3. Turn the page to the Miami Dolphins back home next week, which will be exciting to watch. With Jacoby Brissett still under center. And we will be back to preview that one on Thursday. So make sure everyone subscribes to Patriots Press Pass. Turn on your notifications so you do know when we go live. And you can also follow Barth in the meantime on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com to read his Patriots coverage. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to patspulpit.com to read our coverage over there as well. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in with us tonight, and we will see you guys later this week.